Hello, I'm Carter Threlkeld, and welcome to Introduction to Worship. Let's begin today's lesson. Today we're going to talk about heroic music and fantasy music. Let's begin with the heroic template. Heroic melodies are written in major keys. These melodies are typically diatonic. They heavily utilize perfect intervals, especially perfect fourths and fifths. Given the emphasis on perfect intervals, heroic melodies often emphasize scale degrees 5 and 2, which are pitches generated when you stack two perfect fifths above the tonic, and 4 and 7, flat 7, which are the pitches generated when you stack two perfect fourths above the tonic. Let's talk about perfect intervals for a second. Perfect intervals will be an important concept throughout our study of heroic music. They have a particularly regal sound and play an important role in both melodic and harmonic structure of heroic material. The most important perfect intervals are perfect fourths and perfect fifths. A perfect fourth is an interval of 5 half steps. La, 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 la. La 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 la, la 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 la. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da. Okay. Perfect fifths are 7 half steps. 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's worth noting that perfect fourths and fifths are inherently linked, so they have a similar sound. If you invert pitches of a perfect fourth, you get a perfect fifth, and vice versa. For instance, ascending from C to F creates a perfect fourth, while descending from C down to F creates a perfect fifth. Similarly, ascending from C to F creates a perfect fourth, while descending from F down to C creates a perfect fifth. Now play the link to this heroic theme of the movie Flicka. So let's notice that the boundaries of the melody are set by the upper and lower C notes, which form a perfect interval, the octave. In addition to emphasizing perfect intervals, the Flicka theme is built on a diatonic scale. Nearly all heroic melodies remain within a diatonic scale. The heroic harmonies are in major keys. The chords used are predominantly major triads. Chords built from perfect intervals, perfect fourths and fifths, are commonly incorporated. The emphasis of a flat 7 in heroic melodies often leads to harmonies that incorporate flattened scale degrees, particularly flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7s. This comes from stacking the fourths. 2 stacked perfect fourths result in a minor 7th interval. The flattened 7th scale degree, when placed above the tonic, this scale degree is commonly harmonized with a major 7 chord and a minor 5 chord, which is the B flat major and G minor in the key of C. The prominence of these chords in heroic themes commonly pushes the harmony in the direction of additional flattened chords, so we feel a whole step movement in the theme, in the harmony. Heroic orchestrations. Heroic themes vary in tempo from slow to fast, and triplets are commonly incorporated into the rhythm structures. either eighth note triplets or sometimes quarter note triplets that give us an expansive feel, a stretching out of the intervals. The orchestrations are brass, brass, and more brass. Heroic themes rely heavily on brass, with the trumpets and the French horns commonly taking the lead melodic role. Trombones can also be given the melody or used to double a trumpet cue. The rhythmic patterns are commonly reinforced with percussion, especially non-pitched drums like snare drums and timpani. In general, harmonies are typically filled by low strings and low brass. When the texture is large, upper woodwinds are commonly given runs, scales, to act as background ear candy. Now we're going to hear an excerpt of probably the most famous of the heroic songs, of heroic themes, the theme from Star Wars. The melody for the main theme of Star Wars conforms to the heroic melody structure previously discussed. It is entirely diatonic, staying within the B-flat major scale. It also relies heavily on perfect fourths and fifths, with the opening perfect fifth jump being one of the most iconic and well-known ideas in the history of film music. In fact, in a sight singing class, you were probably taught to learn the fifth interval by the Star Wars theme, remembering that a star has 5 points and that the Star Wars is a 1-5, a fifth, a perfect fifth. The harmony in the Star Wars theme uses a mixture of triads and chords influenced by fourths, just as in the previous example. If you stack 3 perfect fourths above F, you get pitches F, B flat, E flat, and A flat. This chord has several benefits in a heroic context. First, it is based entirely on perfect fourths, creating a heroic sound in line with the previous examples. Second, it incorporates the A flat, the flattened 7th scale degree of the B flat scale, a scale degree that commonly makes an appearance in heroic music. The rhythms of the Star Wars theme are built on triplets. Sometimes they're eighth note triplets and sometimes they're quarter note triplets. This gives a little bit of a counter melody idea. When the long sustained note is in the melody, you've got the triplets underneath in eighth notes. Then when the quarter note triplets are above, you have quarter notes below and quarter note triplets below as well. Once again, in the orchestration of Star Wars, brass plays a prominent role. In this orchestration, the melody is given to 3 trumpets in unison. I want to point out that 3 trumpets in unison are capable of projecting a melody over the entire orchestra. At measure 7 of the theme, the melody is spread out across brass and woodwinds. It's the same notes, the same pitches, but the woodwinds are an octave higher, which creates an extension of the brass section, a feeling of this ultra bright brass sound. Next, we're going to look at the template of the adventure film. That was the Polar Express theme, and the melody in the Polar Express theme is driven by the idea is to have a memorable theme that will remain with the audience long after the movie has ended. This has to be a strong melody. The primary melody for Polar Express is simple but catchy. Other than the chords, some of the chord substitutions, this is a lot like the intimate ballad template. The melody will stay faithful to the underlying chord progression and contain very few non-chord tones. The only pitch that goes beyond the regular G major scale is C sharp, which is the raised fourth scale degree. This raised fourth is not surprising to find in an adventure theme. The raised fourth scale degree is often associated with magic and fantasy, themes that are common in adventure films. This is a phenomenon that can be traced back through the history of film music. If you remember the theme to E.T., there is a raised fourth in that melody as well. And very common in fantasy themes is also to have a counter melody. Usually counter melodies move when the main melody stays the same. So if the counter melody is rhythmically active, the primary melody is sustained, and vice versa. The harmonies of the Polar Express theme are in the key of G major and is built predominantly on diatonic triads. Several inversions of the triads are included that create smooth voice leading in the bass line. Here's the full progression. It's a 16-bar phrase with the first 8 bars mirroring the second 8 bars. Notably, each 8-bar phrase begins with tonic and ends with a dominant. This structure is very common in adventure themes and grounds the harmony in traditional tonic-dominant relationships. Adventure themes tend to accompany journey sequences in faraway lands and worlds. Characters board planes, trains, and spaceships and embark on adventures in distant lands. In general, these themes call for up-tempo and high-energy music. Adventure orchestrations usually include several elements designed to enhance the fantasy side of the film. These are instruments like the harp or a choir, not singing words, but just oohing and ahhing back there. The celeste is another commonly emphasized instrument used in fantasy films. Finally, we're going to talk about the use of ethnic music. Here are 2 examples of clips that will transport the viewer to a place and time centuries ago and in specific locations in the world. Ethnic music is used in film scoring to set a location, create cultural authenticity, and evoke specific emotions by utilizing traditional ethnic instruments, scales, and rhythmic patterns. It can be the voice, it could be a bagpipe, but it is something that is definitely recognizable and identifiable with the location and the culture. Well, that's the end of our lesson today. I hope it was a blessing to you.